This video is intended to explain the three-tier process for receiving alternate format textbooks. It applies to students who have received accommodations from SAGU, specifically the accommodation for alternate format of textbooks. So, first thing that I want to make sure that I explain is that students should start this process pretty early. One of the first things they need to do in order to begin the process is to complete financial aid registration. This can be done through the MySAGU portal. During the summers, it's available several months ahead of time, and we recommend that this be done so that way students will know how much financial aid is left over from being applied to their bill that they can then use at SAGU bookstore to purchase textbooks. Even if a student does not have any financial aid left over after completing their registration financial stuff, their financial registration, SAGU also offers a $500 textbook allowance that can be applied to purchase textbooks at their bookstore. So any amount of money of that $500 that is used to purchase textbooks will be added to their bill. And this also applies to e-textbooks that are purchased at the SAGU bookstore. So it's a great resource, a great place to find and get your e-textbooks. The SAGU bookstore staff is actually offered to assist students who need alternate format of textbooks to find those e-textbooks for them. So that's a really beneficial thing as well. What they need to do once they finished financial aid registration is to gather the textbook information and then send it to the bookstore requesting these books. There's a link over here to the side that students can use, goes to another YouTube video that will explain how to create a report on SAGU's bookstore website that will list every textbook for every course that they have for that semester. So it's a really beneficial website. You can connect to that link and check out that video to find out how to do that. So purchasing e-textbooks at the SAGU bookstore is one way to get textbooks on your own. A second one is to use that same information that you gathered from the SAGU bookstore about your textbooks and go to other websites and find e-textbooks there. The benefit of that is there's a lot more options available because there's a whole lot of websites. One of the drawbacks, though, is the financial aid that you're receiving from SAGU, and that $500 textbook allowance is not available to you then because you're going to purchase that on your own outside of SAGU's network, and it doesn't apply in that sense. So first tier, the student needs to do as much as possible to get as many of their e-textbooks on their own, because this is the fastest way for them to have their books and be ready for their classes. If that doesn't work, then the student goes to tier 2, and that's to contact the publisher. Students do not do that directly. We will do that for them at the learning centers. There's a law in place that allows students, if they've purchased a physical copy of a textbook that's not in the format that they can read, they can get another copy from the publisher in a format that they can read at no additional charge. So the process for doing that is, first of all, the student needs to gather that textbook information, and then along with that, purchase a physical copy of the textbook, because they need to provide a proof of purchase to the learning centers as well. This proof of purchase is what we use when we're contacting the publishers later on to show that the student has, in fact, bought the textbook, and they're now just giving them an alternate format. So once the student has sent the textbook information for all the books that they need and a proof of purchase for those books to the learning centers, then we will contact the publishers. Now, a good number of publishers are starting to come together on several different websites that the learning centers is able to access, and for many of these books are able to get them really quickly because the publishers are providing a digital format on those websites for us to request and get access to rather quickly. And hopefully more and more publishers do that, because that's going to really speed up the process for tier 2 requests. They provide the format in a file that screen readers can work, and it's just really a great process. If that happens, we can get those usually within a day or so, sometimes 2 or 3, but really not that long at all. It's a really ideal way of getting it if student couldn't get it on their own. There are cases, though, where there's publishers that aren't on those sites. and we have to contact them directly. If we do that directly, again, it could take a day, or sometimes it can take up to a month. It really just depends on the publisher themselves. We really have to work one-on-one with each of the publishers, and that just takes us a lot longer to get the books to the students. Once the publishers have gotten us their versions of the textbook, we still have to format them. We put a table of contents on them. We have to evaluate, make sure that they're compatible with screen readers. Usually it's a PDF file that the student ends up getting. So once we've formatted the copy and we're ready to send it to the student, we will email it to their Lionmail account. It'll be a link. They'll click on and go to a website and download their copy, and they'll have that PDF version. Like I said, this tier can take a day or up to a month sometimes. So we need to make sure to allow a lot of time in the summer, hopefully in before the semester, so that we can have it if we need to go this far. So if Tier 2 doesn't work, there are occasions that professors have textbooks for their classes that are out of print, and there is no publisher to have a copy for it because they no longer have the copy because it's no longer something they use. If the book is out of print, or the publisher sometimes doesn't have a digital file to provide, then the first step is we get the publisher's permission to convert a physical textbook. So we use the student's copy of the textbook, and we're going to convert it to an e-version. The way we do that is we remove the binding and trim the pages for scanning. We scan the front and the back of all the pages, and then we use a program to convert and format the scanned pages to a version, an e-version that screen readers can identify and read. And it's just similar to the files that are sent to us by the publishers up here in Tier 2. We're just having to do it ourselves. Then, like before with Tier 2, we send an email to the student's Lionmail account with a link, and the student can download the digital file and be able to read the textbook in the format and the way that they're able to. Then we'll also have the loose leaf pages available for the student to come by the learning centers and pick up. This can take a day, or it can take up to 2 weeks. It really depends when the request is made. When at the beginning of the semester, we have a lot of things that we're doing and getting out for students, and so this is something that becomes a secondary focus while we're getting accommodations out to all our students and to all professors. There's a lot of things that have to happen ahead of time. Then we address that. So sometimes it can take up to 2 weeks because there's other things that are going on. But generally, for one textbook, it takes about 3 hours to break down and cut and scan and prep and do all this stuff that's for it to be ready to go out to the student. So we really take a lot of intensive time to get that done. So again, if we have to get to Tier 3, it's good to have time before the semester begins, so there's not a lot of pressure on the student for that, because at this point, we've come to about 6 weeks, if not longer, from the beginning of the request to get this textbook out. So those are the 3 steps. That's how a student, if they have the accommodation for alternate formatted textbooks, they can get a copy for it. I just want to reiterate once again, it is so important that these requests are done early. It is important that financial aid registration is done early, or that financial registration is done early. That way, students are set up in every other way, and we can, as quickly as possible, get them access to their alternate formats. If you have any questions, please contact the Learning Centers at academicaccommodations@sagu.edu, or you can give us a call at 972-825-4841.